but it'll be all right. All right, we look good. Sound looks good. Mikey was supposed to be on tonight too.
Yep.
Chris, what's up? Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah. Moving right along. Yeah. Just making sure we're good to go here. I guess you can hear me, which is good. Alright. You're probably the only one in. Waiting all of our guests, and Mike should be back on tonight too.
Yep.
All right. Back in 2001, when we first began working with Gary Gygax, he pitched this wonderful series of books to us. He called them the Gygaxian Fantasy Worlds, and what he envisioned was this encyclopedic set of books for role players, writers, game designers, the whole lot of us that we could use in making our games.
Actually, don't have to get up tomorrow.
Writing stuff for publishable content,
unfortunately,
whatever it may be. And there was really no end to what he envisioned this series to be.
Yeah, this time of year I always try to get up early so I can walk Chico and get some exercise before it gets hot.
Yeah, ready to go to print.
I usually get up like 4:30.
So the series like that open-ended.
Oh, but then I take a nap 2 hours in the when it's the hottest during the day.
We've got 7 books online ready to be printed. We've got another 3 right after that we want to get it minimally out as we.
You know what, maybe I didn't give them a login.
Yeah, you need to.
All right, let me.
Maybe even more than that. Once we kind
they all
of push
stopping
beyond
somewhere.
the necessary stretch goals and all that mess. But welcome to the what we're calling the Gary Gygax World Building Archives, and please give us your support. Share it around if you can. Pledge if you can. Whatever you need to do, whatever you can do for us and the memory of Gary Gygax, we very much appreciate it.
Trollord Games, join the fray.
Let me do that just to play it safe here. See people like, we didn't get a login ID. Even though it's the same, but let's just play it safe here.
Oh yeah, Chris, you beat us by about 3 degrees. I think it's about 103 here. So yeah.
Oh.
But it's desert heat, so it's dry heat, so it's not that bad. This is kind of not unusual in the summer to have a bit over 100 here. July, August, and early September it can be up to 110, 20, almost up to 120. Yeah, sometimes.
It feels good to see you. I can say yuck.
No, but it's just this time of year. It's like There's like 4 or 5 weeks in the summer when it's a bit too hot, but it's only during the day. Mornings are gorgeous. It's like wonderful 75 degrees in the morning, and evenings are wonderful, about 80. The sun disappears early behind the hills, and after that, it's fantastic out. So yeah.
Here comes Sam. Hey, Sam. I forgot to give everyone else a link out, so duh.
Hello.
What we got here? Shows up.
Just told me he'll be a little late. He hasn't told you.
No, he did. He did.
Okay.
That's all right. Sometimes stuff happens, right?
Yep.
Boyd, what's up? Oh, 107.
Yeah. That
Boy,
sounds like
good,
hot springs
good.
temperature. Yep.
I don't know if he finished it, but he was working on a bit of a graphic for you.
I'm sorry, what?
I don't know if he finished it, but he was working on a graphic, a map with the areas occupied by the various Ur-Flan and Flan, and even some of the elves.
He didn't send it to me, so
Ah, okay.
it was not sent.
He may send it to you as soon as he shows up.
Right, and then I'll be like, time to risk crashing the stream. Woohoo!
Yeah. So, well,
That'll be
a heads up, he was trying to do one. Or maybe we'll have to, I don't know, maybe I'll convince him to put it on Cannon Fire or something, and he can just link there. And I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. What's up, Mike? No game tonight, huh?
Hi,
'Cause
everybody.
it's a holiday.
Hello.
It's basically a weekend
Right.
night. Yeah.
Yep.
That's why we got no game tomorrow night. It's actually, on the holiday, so. Yep. We do have a game Saturday morning.
Yeah.
And Les, it says 4. That's right, 4. So Les isn't on it either. Bright lands temperatures. Who knows? I mean, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even higher.
Brightlands. I was going to say Brightlands might not be that hot, but dry.
Oh, okay.
Remember that deserts, it's not the temperature, it's that they're dry. They're cold deserts as well as hot deserts. Yeah, well, at least deserts in the real world. So, but might be hot. But the thing is that there are deserts even in Antarctica where their temperature barely ever goes above freezing. But it's that they're so dry that makes them desert. Like the Gobi Desert is really cold too.
Got it.
Yep.
Alright, let's see. Recent events. I'm just talking to myself, everyone. Sorry about that. Coming live in a second. Look, we're 5 minutes early, so. Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. Alright. Coming live. Why not? Hello. Kicking off a Wednesday. Kicking off the week. 3-stream week this week, but not on the normal nights. So, nothing tomorrow night because of 4th of July. No game on Thursday, but we have a game Saturday morning at 9 o'clock with the ever mysterious Tim doing the underdogs back there. It's been a while, so for them, it'll be good to see that group get back in. So with me is Mike's back.
Yes.
Hey, everybody.
He's not DMing tonight, and with me is, of course, always Adam Meyer, and
Hello.
Samwise is on tonight, and we're missing Les, and we're missing Gary Hooley in Pluffett's Measure. So
What the hell?
yeah, well, Gary said he was going to be a little late, and I'm not sure where Les is. I didn't get a Discord message from him either, but we'll see.
Yep.
We'll see. Let's
Me too, Jim. Me too.
let's show this here real quick. So Virtual GreyHawk 5 signups are going well to start off, which I appreciate. You know, it's a nominal fee just to pay for the site. $5 covers everything, and I there's a couple other fees, so maybe around up to like 6 and change or 7. But got some events in there already. We go to the event schedule here, and so we got some. Even got Triller Games in there, starting to get them in. So I'll after the 24-hour craziness next weekend, and I'll start working on getting the other streamers involved. I can't do that now with what I'm planning. I just can't. I got too much other stuff being worked on. So just no. I'll do my best, but after that, that's going to be in August. It gives us 2 months out, so we'll be fine. It'll be mid-July when I start working on reaching out to the streamers and getting the stream schedule set up. So I know when we had Vecna, the discussion, we barely touched Ur-Flan.
Right. Okay, and Gary just messaged me. He just got in. He cannot finish the map or finish labeling it, but he's sending what he has to you.
Oh, okay.
We can look at it and
Oh
All right, cool.
boy.
we can work on it and get a finished one. So yep.
It should help. And there's Les.
There's Les. What's up?
And that goes to a post over on Cannon Fire, and that should help with some of the words we weird names we're going to be throwing around.
Very cool. So good to see you, Les.
Hey.
All right, give me a second here. I'm going to risk it. I'm pulling up Discord onto my computer here, and then I got to open up Gary's message to me, and then I got to maximize the pick, and then I have to save it. Save image as, and what's it save as here? Ancient Flan. Okay, put it in this file here. Save. All right, that should have worked. It looks like I didn't nothing got destroyed on this one, so should have gone without flaw too much. And I'll see if I can throw it in the scroller and show it during the discussion. So, all right, Sam, lead us off. What we want to accomplish, and then we'll go to Les on what you guys. Oh wow, Scott, thanks, man. 55 months. Good to see you.
Okay, well,
what do we want to accomplish in this discussion?
All right, well, we're going to hopefully talk about the Ur-Flan, and we'll probably throw in a bunch of stuff about the Old Faith, because to a degree, they're sort of interconnected.
Okay.
One thing I would note, of course, is a lot of this is supposition, made up from our best guesses working with the material we have. The Ur-Flan, their origin is in an excerpt from Ivid the Undying that showed up in Dragon magazine, and then of course it's in the regular Ivid, discussing the destruction of the city of Summer Stars by the quote Ur-Flan of Trask.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that's where it started.
That's where it starts from Sergeant there, and it's never really explained. I mean, Sergeant may have just been referring to the people of Trask as the Ur-Flan, and the other Flan or whoever the heck they are.
Huh.
But all of us GREYHAWK people, over the years, one of the things in the original folio in the box set, it says, the Flan made no appreciable efforts at civilization. But then we have all these Ur-Flan all these people showing up. We have Vecna, we have Somme, we have the Isles of Woe, we have Tostenka, which shows up in GREYHAWK Adventures. We have the Kingdom of Alyssa, we have the Trask. So all of a sudden, well, wait, maybe there is all sorts of Flan civilization. And it just sort of became that, no, we're going to take the Ur-Flan term and we'll apply it to any of the Flan who didn't just live as, rather simple Old Faith people who didn't live like the Rovers of the Barrens.
Okay. Ur-Flan, the best Flan. There you go, Dale. Wow. Yeah. Well, we'll wait for Gary. I left all the Vecna stuff in the scroller from the number 248 because I don't know if any of it cross references or we're going to discuss any of it as. Go ahead, Anna.
I was going to say we can mention that Trask in this case. That's a river that goes through the North Province.
Yes.
Up to the Atir, just so people yeah, who wonder where the term Trask comes from in this case. It
Right.
refers to that river that is in the North Kingdom, North Province, whatever you might call it. Yeah.
Excellent.
As it goes, years ago, I decided I would call them, instead of just naming them for the river, I would call them the Taraski.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully that name invokes some additional things just from the name itself.
I understand, Tarask.
Yep.
I got it.
Right, there you go. Yes. And you know, make them a little more.
Okay. So I got let's see, I got Ivedy and Dying here. I don't know what. Hey Chuck, good to see you, Troll Lord Chuck. Good to see you, man. See Chuck a week from Saturday,
Nice.
the third and final event of the 24-hour stream. Yes. So there you go. Gonna be crazy. All right, Les, what are your thoughts on this discussion?
Well, a few. I'm probably going to lean into a position that posits that that contradiction and ambiguity are features rather than bugs. As Sam was mentioning, like one of the first, well, the very first reference I think was in Dragon, I want to say 208. It was the actually the update on, it was Sergeant's update on the Adri campaign, the excerpt on the Adri. And then for several issues onward, he kept excerpting portions of the Ivy the Undying, and most of them contained some reference to the Ur-Flan.
Okay.
And what's interesting is that it's posited, the way that it's framed, both in by Sargent and later, is really interesting. Going back to that question of the Flan, you have them clearly marked. This group is clearly designated as the Ur-Flan, right? Which kind of implies a kind of palimpsest, a kind of raw material, the first things that come, right? It's like the Hamlet is the earliest known draft of Hamlet, right? Or the earliest known text of Hamlet. In this case, you have the Ur-Flan. And it raises the question, because several times it will refer, sometimes it refers to them as a race, and sometimes it refers to them as a tribe. And then, of course, when Moxlick is introduced to it, that further complicates things because of some things that are dropped throughout the Moxlick references to how Moxlick interacted with the Ur-Flan.
Okay.
So you have, but again, I mean, basically what it is, in a nutshell, is in a lot of Robert E. Howard and even Fafnir the Grey Mounts, or all these old kind of fantasy sword and sorcery stories, you have some spooky race of forerunners who dabbled in really dark arts. It's mentioned the Ur-Flan are mentioned specifically as dealing in abjuration, I think evocation and necromancy at various points. So, you know, not necessarily the best guys. And you'll notice, of course, that many of them tend to go pretty dark in terms of their desires and in terms of their goals. Now, that may not be universally true, but certainly some of the named ones, you know, the ones who made a name for themselves kind of are not nice guys. So again, they fall into this kind of sword and sorcery kind of category of a lost empire, of really bad people who dabbled in really bad things, and who linger on even after their expiration date has come up.
Okay.
Well, yeah. The thing because of the timing, and you can see this in that little timeline I linked, the Ur-Flan show up when the Flan calendar starts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which means technically they can't really be before the Flan or proto-Flan. I do know there are a whole bunch of proto-human civilizations that are referenced as showing up across the Flan.
Pre-human civilizations.
Right.
Rather than proto, I'd say pre.
Yeah, or even not just fully non-human. They're other creatures. I associate a lot of them with the Wind Dukes. So the Flan, the Ur-Flan is good. They do have some traits, as Les mentioned. You know, they do have this predilection for necromancy. There seems to be a strong extraplanar element to them, typically fiendish, and they seem to have also delusions of immortality.
or certainly a desire for immortality
Right.
in some fashion or another.
Right.
Huh.
So you could say yes. That is what distinguishes the Ur-Flan from the Old Faith.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I had mentioned in a previous show that one of the things I love about the Ur-Flan or playing with the Ur-Flan and playing with some of the ambiguities of this history is that the Old Faith, you have this idea of cyclic time, and you have the idea of cycles of birth, life, death,
Okay.
renewal. And then you have the Ur-Flan, who, let's face it, once you're going for lichdom and stuff, you're stepping outside of that circle. You're stepping outside the bounds of the natural. It's like I hate to use the Star Wars analogy, but it's the idea of the Sith having powers that some would consider unnatural.
Ooh.
And it's very much along those lines. It's like, you're dealing with they aren't concerned about time. Matter of fact, they want to step outside of time. That might be one of the reasons why some liches wind up in extraplanar spaces or in pocket dimensions as well. It's like, time is not something that they're particularly worried about or interested in, except to the extent that they want to defeat it.
So, are all Ur-Flan rulers obsessed with excessive long life, or is that just the ones that we know about?
I would say it seems to be the ones we know about, and I'd say
Okay.
also the ones we know about. If we didn't know about them, then it's hard to say if they were really Ur-Flan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if they were even significant.
I think I would add to that, Jay. It's one of those things where history tends to remember the names of the dictators and mass murderers, etc., as boogeymen. Whereas the good guys tend to be, I hate to say it, the good guys, yeah, they do tend to be forgotten sometimes. It's like, yeah, he was competent. She ruled her people well. Everyone was well fed. Oh, but this jerk over here killed, eight goat hearts in front of the children and stuff like this. So, yeah, it's like, the horrific element is going to burn itself into a cultural memory a little more, I think, than the gold. You always have your golden age, right? But your golden ages have to fall, and everyone always remembers the name of the person or persons who screwed up the golden age. So,
Okay.
Right.
Well, that makes sense.
Can I chime in here just a little bit? We might have some new viewers, and I love Sam's and Les deep dive into stuff, but just to remind people that this is what we do best in the GREYHAWK community. We take a feather and we make it into a whole
Chicken.
hen house or chicken coop of stuff. Not only one chicken, we make lots of cool stuff out of it. Meaning we have one little passage in one little
Right.
book, and that's about it, so to speak, when we talk about Ur-Flan. And meaning I do this for a living, spin off come up with new stuff. So I love this is cool. But we have to remind this is us speculating, having fun with the lore we have. And a couple of comments that I think ties into both Les and Sam said is that what we know, the little we know, is speculate is, and that goes with most of the great, especially the earlier the box set is written from the perspective of Rossi's, of the Great Kingdom, of the victors, so to speak. So it's their story. So you can, it doesn't need to be more than Great Kingdom propaganda, so to speak. It can
Right.
be, and Ur-Flan might simply be a name they have given to some of the nastiest ones that they are most scared of, understand the least, etc. Like the Romans talked about barbarians, or Europeans talked about the weird people in the colonies and all sorts of stuff. Meaning this is a known trait throughout real world history. So it'd be kind of cool to use the same idea for GREYHAWK history, so to speak, and lore that the rulers in the Great Kingdom might wanted to invent some boogeymens, real or imagined, somewhere, so to speak, or describe them. So that's one way of dealing with it. Or they can simply be true stories of the people themselves. The Ur-Flan might be a term that the Flan themselves used on outcasts, or it might be a class of rulers in Old Flan that used that term of themselves. That there's various possibilities you can play with here. So I just wanted to yeah, exactly. Please continue.
I was going to say, just to recommend something else.
Yeah.
When we say perhaps they were this or that, given the fact that we do know that the Flan covered a fairly broad territory, I think we can possibly say that different Flan communities would have thought of the Ur-Flan differently, perhaps, and responded to the Ur-Flan differently. When we speak of that idea of the Ur-Flan or the first Flan, here would be a, and this is just me offering a possibility. And again, within my campaign, this is a possibility. I want a degree of, I have in my head a general idea about the Ur-Flan, but I want them to have for players this nearly mythic or uncanny quality to them. So
Okay.
to the Ur-Flan. So what in my campaign, one of the ideas that's proposed is that the Ur-Flan, you had the Flan, right? The Flan would be the first people who were in the Flan S. Then you have this group that saw itself as they were wanderers, though didn't really have a civilization to speak of. Then you had the coming of, through some stuff with Moxlick, which we can get in later, the Ur-Flan, who were more interested in establishing things that would last outside of time, be that in some cases their own bodies, or in other cases, or consciousnesses, or in other cases, buildings and structures that would last through time. So they were less nomadic than the normal Flan, and also inclined to have arcane gifts.
Yeah. Well, something I would put in here, of the 14 Ur-Flan I have on my list, 8 destroyed themselves.
Yep.
2 were destroyed by other Ur-Flan. 3 just kind of gave up and left. And 1 was actively destroyed. Or sorry, 2 were actively destroyed by the Iridians. Well, 1 was actively destroyed. And the one that was actively destroyed by the Erdi was destroyed by the Nalax, because apparently they were too evil for the Nalax.
Yeah.
So when you get up, so that's one of the things you have to look at the Ur-Flan is they destroyed themselves. They weren't actually destroyed by the Iridians. So if the Iridians are coming in, they're going to look and say, well, there's nobody here. Yeah, there's nobody here. They killed themselves. And then when they get to this one group, it's worse than the worst of them.
Yep.
And so they're not going to want to credit those people with anything.
Yeah, and then of course that's going to color their view of the other Flan, of the non-Ur-Flan Flan.
Here it comes, Gary.
It's going to really accelerate all that, amplify all that attitude.
That's weird.
So, and like I say, these are strange things that you gotta read through everything to get this impression of the Ur-Flan.
There we go.
I didn't even really think of it this way until I was actually developing my ancient history and going through each Ur-Flan and going, wait, they were where and what happened to them?
Yep.
Oh.
And Sam, you can see what I mean. That's very much a kind of Clark Ashton Smith, Robert E. Howard kind of, here's the dude. Yeah, I mean, they're very much these creepy figures out of old classic fantasy or pulp.
Right. I mean,
these forerunners.
To a degree, even to other Flan, they're bogeymen. I think one of the highlights of that is Hughes, the old one. I the old of Fear Babe talk. He's a literal bogeyman to all the Flan of the Northern Reaches and Bitter North.
Well, Gary is here, which is great. Good to see you, Gary.
Hello.
There, Gary.
Oh, there he is.
Hey, guys.
So now I can share it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you.
You're loud and clear.
Yep.
Thanks. So Norker asked a question right off the bat on this great map. And it does. The Hornlands are not included on this.
So a couple of notes.
Oh.
The map's incomplete. So if something's blank, it doesn't mean anything.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I mean, you haven't gotten to it yet.
And there's some dwarven and elven realms that just didn't get labeled yet. So
right. Like I'm assuming
Awesome.
elven are green.
Yes.
And dwarven are red.
Yeah, it's kind of a brownish red. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that is really almost complete. I think the one main missing thing is the earliest Ur-Flan kingdom, or might have been pre-Flan, is the Isles of Woe.
Well, zoom in. They're there.
Well, no, but I mean, okay, their full territory, would it be
Yeah,
Like,
I didn't
and
want
wait-
to. I didn't want to overlap things, but
Right.
essentially they would have ruled the entire circumference of the Nirdiv. I'm going to use all four. um, and so places that Vecna took over would have previously belonged to the Isles of Woe. So,
Right. Yeah, I mean,
and in some sense, those lands laid somewhat desolate following the fall, and were the main pathway for the Iridians to traverse the Flannis. So,
I was I was just about to put that, Jay. The zoom in you had a moment ago on the Isle of Woe, all the blank space around it, north, right there. No, go out a little bit. Zoom out a little bit. So right about there. Okay, that would have been no, too far, but all that blank space, top and sides, that would have been what the Isles of Woe controlled.
Okay.
And all that
yeah.
blank
So
space
what became the Shield Lands, the Ernst States,
right,
most half of Furiandi. That's pretty much
what
where
time
they
frame
dominate.
are we talking about?
We don't all agree on this, but I think we all somewhat assume that it was centuries before the migrations, although there are sources that contradict that. But I think I would go about 2,000 years ago, maybe 1,000.
No,
1,000 years before the migrations.
I go negative 2150 to negative 1,000. Actually, and I think my negative 1,000. No, it's negative 2150. Yeah, negative 2150, negative 1,000. I think I went too far on my negative 1,000.
There's really there's no controlling lore that really makes a DM choose any particular date. Although anything that suggests that the Isles and the Rift Canyon were all created during the migrations, I think is really suspicious. I don't think. Yeah, I think that's too much. Yeah, too close.
Oh, but I was also going to and that open that blank northern route. That's where the Iridians came through. That's where the air through. That's where the Neri came through. That blank northern route there.
Yes.
See, so how did they get there? Well, they went around them. They went around everybody
because they were migrating before the Invoked Devastation. Iridians.
They had started, yes, but not in bulk.
They weren't really in the Flannes until the Twin Cats.
It's basically when they saw the event horizon of the nuclear blast that they said, okay.
A question. Blue Rugby says, I need this map. Gary, you will finish this post on Cannon Fire?
I just posted it on Cannon Fire to help people follow along. So yeah, they
can you relink that, Sam, if you did already? Did you link that?
It's right in the main. It's right in the main chat.
Okay. Let me go. Go.
So what I'll do is I'll finish this map and then repost it again.
All right. Let me go to Cannon Fire and just show everyone. No. All right. Here's the front page. Am I logged in?
No.
I'm not logged in.
No. I'm sorry. The Cannon Fire Discord.
Yep.
Oh. Okay. Cannon Fire Discord is probably in the main chat.
By the way, do you have a map by GREYHAWK Mike handy that has the ancient Flannis? Because I'd like to put that one up too.
Oh man. Handy?
Okay, I'll take a look at it while we're talking.
You know what I need to do? I need to. So tell me if someone can tell me and go search what number we did when we did the southern oh my God, the Isle of Dread discussion in Legends and Lore, because that's going to be the map I'm going to have in Mike's. So I need to know what number with Legends and Lore was Isle of Dread. So hold on one sec. Yeah, that would tell me which what folder it's in and if I have it on this machine. So there it is. It's linked.
Yeah, is it the map that GREYHAWK Mike gave you, Anna?
Yeah.
The hard copy of.
Yeah.
With the ancient Flannis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd have to.
The
92.
92
here.
Yeah.
Legends of Lore number 92.
Yes.
I think it's on my other computer downstairs.
This is one of my favorite GREYHAWK maps of all time.
That's an old episode.
This is
3 years ago.
Hang on a second. It's This is one of the, and I'm so that this one is fantastic. This one
starts at Legends of Lore 101. Even in my archive.
It's become canon now in my campaign. So it's
didn't we have that one up for Elven though and migrations? Did we use that map for migrations as well?
I think we used it for a little bit. It's on Mike Bridges' website. So
I just linked it.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. Yep.
See, but you guys, man, you're killing me because I'm on my laptop.
It's a janky copy.
All right.
You need to get yourself a proper setup there.
Yeah, I'm not set up right. I know. I'm trying to avoid crashes at all instances. You guys are killing me here. We're gonna have a double sound for about 5 seconds here. Sound for about 5 seconds. There we go. Yep. All right. Okay. Look at that. There we go.
There you go. Perfect.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. I can't zoom in though.
Oh, sound.
As far as I can, because there are only 2 sites I got there. Yeah, double sound should have stopped there.
I was going to say, can you right click and save it?
Yeah. This is the one. So hold on. Oh my God, it's going to be save image as. Let me see.
So while you're doing that, I was listening to Les's introduction, and I agree with what he was saying. I think Ur essentially is a term that has become somewhat generic, but originates in the Middle East with an actual city-state that was one of the oldest in recorded history, and so it's become a catchword for something that's old or the original version of something.
Okay.
And so I think the only people applying that term were probably the Aerdi or the Ridians themselves. I don't think the Flan called themselves Ur-Flan.
No.
That's what I might guess too. And
I think this is almost like an academic term that the writer of Ivid the Undying is using to say these Flan are really different than the
we
ones
have to tell
that we're used to.
Where the term comes from the real world, meaning Ur was kind of the Ursprung, it's called in Swedish,
like
and it's the city of Ur in the Babylonian Mesopotamian world in what is today Iraq, so to speak. It's the city of Ur was one of the.
If you guys have heard of Sumerians, Sumer, that's the same kind of place we're talking about.
I can't help but think that the sense that Sargent might have been using it Ur-hyphen word, like I said, goes back to the Germanic Ur, which we usually use to mean a prototype or a palimpsest or a primitive original version of something.
Yeah, in Swedish and German, it's still called Ursprung or Ursprung.
Which may means that they're mislabeled, because are these societies an evolution from the Old Faith Flan? Or were they precursors to the Old Faith Flan? Or did they just evolve in a parallel way and are not really older or younger?
But it might be them. They realized that there were different, like an older culture of the Flan that they labeled that way because it was different from the other ones they saw or something. That's one of my theories
too.
That
was one of the things I was kind of suggesting with the idea that the majority of the Flan, left to their own devices, seem to have been nomadic or very, very much ungrounded, very much, in keeping with the cycles of nature, if you will. Whereas the Ur-Flan, who might have viewed themselves as the first Flan civilization, the first true Flan, or might have been labeled that, posthumously by the Aerdi or someone. Here's someone who builds cities. Here's a group that does something we consider recognizable, right? That what you have there then would be a group that uses, how can I put it? It asserts its superiority over the larger group that it's part of, and then assumes that creates this kind of mythos whereby they are the prime power. They are the first true.
It's classic. It happens all the time. And then from the Aerdi point of view, another classic trope is to have people devolve into more primitive forms. So the Aerdi just may describe the Ur-Flan as being the height of Flan civilization, and then it devolved into the Old Faith, which may not remotely be the case, but that's the story they tell.
And also along those lines, I'm just going to throw this out there for giggles.
Not shits.
You have and shits. And a modest number of shits too. That you have the in the old encounter tables for hills and mountains, of course, like in OD&D, you have cave folk. You have mountaineers and hill folk, and they're fairly ambiguous. But I want to note that the cavemen of AD&D are very much not the cavemen of as in Neanderthals. They're very much the cavemen of kind of Victorian invention and adventure fiction tropes, where they're essentially very primitive humans who live in caves. Yeah. Right? They're kind of analogous also, if you're familiar with medieval romance and legend, the wild men of the woods, right, are the kind of medieval forerunners to figures like Sasquatch and Bigfoot, these hairy folk who would run around. Lancelot at the end of Excalibur is a good example of the wild man trope. If you remember in the film Excalibur, where he's all hairy and he's running around clubbing people.
Not the Eaters of the Dead, though, Les, right?
Yeah, well, there you go. So the point there is that you could have it where some of the Flan didn't like the direction that things were going, and perhaps they retreated into the mountains and hills. And you now have, after generations, people would have fled there as well. You would have various renegades and exiles of various stripes going into those hills. Perhaps some of them were consumed or killed, and perhaps some of them were integrated with those cultures. But the idea is you would have, if you see what I mean, kind of different Flan cultures at play.
I was going to say, did you guys start with a discussion of what it means to be Flan at all?
No.
Not really.
We hadn't gotten there.
We should that great point, Gary. Yeah.
I would just note, I do see the regular Flan as village, maybe small town agriculturalists after a certain point. So they're not utter primitives.
Oh no.
But they're not city builders.
No, the cave folk are like I said, a different thing altogether.
Right.
The Flan I've always seen as, you know how you would have these ancient peoples, and these kinds of ideas persist, right? Right down where they would travel along certain routes, and then they would have meeting places along those routes, like almost seasonal or calendar oriented meeting places, where every midsummer night or whatever, the tribes all converge here. And then they go about their way. Something along those lines. I tend to use a lot for some of my, like there are markers right along various roads and in various what have become villages and towns. Yeah. And the reason that those markers are there is because those used to be on meeting places along the old tribal migration lines.
Yeah, I mean, I do think over the time frame, up through when the Flan calendar started, the Flan went from being just completely nomadic to being settled. It's just they weren't building cities. The Ur-Flan were building cities. The Ur-Flan were building cities. They were building empires. The Flan, they were happy with their villages and small towns, their old faith religious meeting centers. Mm-hmm. And otherwise, no, they didn't need to build an empire. They weren't on that route.
Yeah, I agree. Not on that wavelength at all.
Interesting thought.
I would also argue that it's entirely possible, and I think I suggested this in a couple of my Oath Journal articles, that there are Flan who were trained by Ur-Flan or Ur-Flan who might have been willing to take a more secondary role and acted as advisor to a chief or whatnot. So you get the idea that there would be these Flan migratory cultures or migrant cultures that had elements of Ur-Flan within their society, but it wasn't the dominant strain, and it was more of an advisory sort of thing. It depends again on the Ur-Flan, but I like to pause it, and of course, they would make an exception. This is not, this guy isn't like Caraptus. This guy isn't like Vecna or whoever. This guy is our guy. He's okay. He offers us good insight.
But now, then going to what Gary said, what it means to be Flan. In my stuff that I'm developing for the Flanese, for the Flan, I've got 20 or so distinct Flan cultures. And I'm expecting that they speak, some might speak related languages. A lot of them speak completely different languages, totally different language groups. Some of them have totally different lifestyles.
Yeah.
The rovers of the barrens in the far north, they're still completely nomadic. Completely nomadic. They have hunting grounds, but they're just wandering. But then you go right next to them to the Tenna, and the Tenna are completely settled, or at least 90% settled. Maybe the people in what is now Stonehold, the Coltens, they were a little more semi-nomadic.
Yeah, this is like as deep as we go on the in GREYHAWK talk shows. Everyone, just note, because there's a lot of theoretical here, a lot of but it's all awesome.
Extrapolating from texts and pieces and bits.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Gary, describe what you think it means to be Flan. Let's go there.
I think it is essentially a genetic similarity.
Okay.
In the way that, say, North Americans, the American Indian tribes, which is a misnomer too, but they shared the same physical characteristics, but they wouldn't say they shared the same cultures. The difference between an Aztec and a Chippewa or something like that is not that much,
Right.
but they had vastly different cultures.
Yeah, they did.
So I think the Flan is almost 4,000 miles wide, bigger than North America in many ways. So for the Flan to recognize themselves and each other would require a lot. I think they wouldn't say that the Flan 1,000 miles away are just like them.
Yeah. If you compare it to Europe, you could be like the first group of people that the early cultures, like we have the Scythes, the Celts, the Picts, that generation of ones that then would then replaced, blended in with previous ones. That's probably where Gary got a lot of the inspiration from, was early European history in that sense, that you had like some form of indigenous population first, and then you had various waves of migration coming in, but they were a lot of different ones, and we don't know how different they were in Europe, and it's up to speculation how different Flan were from one end to the other.
Yes, because we have Flan that look like Amerindians in their culture. We have Flans that look like Celts in their culture. We have Flan that look like Magyars and various other nomadic peoples of the real world. So I think Gary was trying to give you that flavor of these kind of people, but I don't think he I don't know if he had a real plan for how he would describe these inconsistencies. So, but then what happens is that as the fans evolve the setting, you have Jeff becoming even more Celtic.
Exactly. The things took off from there, so to speak, and was introduced and melded in and blended and worked upon, and what we are doing here, meaning we build upon, you take a thing, you run with it in certain directions, and
the rovers become more Indian, and then what to do with places like Alyssa. I mean, they seem almost Egyptian in nature, so maybe these things are all true. But
it's up to each DM. You can play them a little bit the way you want, so to speak. You have an embryo you can play with, and you can kind of bring that to what's needed for your campaign, so to speak, and take inspiration from various sources as you please, so to speak.
But I think the other thing that we need to keep in mind when we're dealing with this stuff is you have also local deities. Like if you read the description of the Earth Dragon, there's speculation that the Earth Dragon was a local nature spirit or a local spirit that was revered by the Flan as a deity, right? And this raises that idea that I've brought up before of genius loci, the idea of spirits that are spirits of a place, right? That the Flan probably would have revered as gods, and would have taken on their own. In other words, you would have perhaps like the underlying deities or their concepts behind the deities, but then you would also have the very local kind of entities that these Flan had to deal with. And so you have like the Earth Dragon, or you notice the among the rovers and whatnot, you have the trickster god, the fox god that's mentioned up there, who it comes from one of the I believe one of the Dungeon Magazine adventures. And so we know that that segment had a god that was unique to that area. You have the Earth Dragon down here. You've got these other deities and other entities. There's the Weeping Woman in my version of the gnarly. So you have these kinds of the Green Man.
Is that a play on the La Llorona myth?
In a way, yeah, it's a little bit of it's a combination of that with
because that's common everywhere. I mean, it appears in many cultures.
Yeah.
It's a combination of that with a rather raw take on the Banshee tale, and combined also with the idea of the spirit who promises to help the woman and then the man betrays her, kind of idea, and her wrath brings down everything.
So I want to start off with as we dissect. I mean, I guess it's the best way to dissect this map and then discuss each time frame, what was going on there. I think that's the best way to go about it. You guys agree? Norker asked, how come the Horn Society is not Flan at all?
It is Flan. It's just that I didn't describe the culture there.
So I thought all the hierarchs were not Flan.
Oh, well, there's no Horn Society pre-migrations. They're a fairly new phenomenon. However, I suggest in my description of them that they may be basing their culture on an older thing, and a Flan thing called the Horn Ones, which were something more like the Wild Hunt, nature gone a little dark. And so they are sort of the inheritors of that culture. But of course, they've added deviltry and other things to it to make it warp it into something quite new. There's something there. It's just that I'm trying to hit highlights here.
Okay. So there was no Horn back then. There's no Horn Society.
They're Flan everywhere on that map. If you look in the Wolf Nomads, the Bernil Forest, they're Flan there too.
Right.
They're Flan up in the what became the Rizian Peninsula. They're just a different kind of Flan. They're maybe I kind of play them as those 13th warrior primitives that attack the
Eaters of the Dead. That's what I said.
Yeah, the Eaters of the Dead. So, but and all these societies that are on the map did not all exist chronologically at the same time.
Right. That's what I was thinking. This map.
Yeah. Solm and Itar, they die out well before the migration, centuries before the migrations. It's already the Bright Desert. So, I don't know when Krovis went to sleep again. That's another different.
So that's
time frame.
So I want to. You pulled this. I thought Joe Block created Krovis from scratch. Am I correct?
Yes, it is his creation.
All right. So So you've actually taken. That's true fanon, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you've.
It's awesome.
All right. Yep. So Pomars, because I have a champion like Krovis in his dead sleep has chosen one of the characters in my campaign to be his champion if he shall return. So there's actually a champion of Krovis now.
It's a great idea.
Okay. So
and I know you guys had a discussion. Was it here or somewhere else the other day where you guys were wondering why Krovis didn't rise up during the Great Kingdom? I mean, the Great Kingdom never claimed those lands.
Right. No.
These lands have not really been under threat until the humanoids.
Why Krovis didn't rise up when Turesh Mach came?
That's a good question.
Because he didn't write it. Oh, he did write it before that, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
Well, I would note Turesh Mach is rather irrelevant in the grand scheme of things.
It's possible that his threat level is considered almost like a pimple. It's not enough to raise the Earth Dragon.
Yeah.
Also not a threat to the Flan people. He's a threat to the elves.
So
you're saying he's heroic, Mike?
I'm saying he's probably biased to his people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd say Vecna II at Tyrus controlled more than that amount of territory. And that didn't cause Krovis to rise. Maybe if Vecna II had defeated the Dwarven King of the Lortmales or the nascent Keelland, he could have become that big a threat. But that's just the Pomars, Okay, I don't use Krovis. I'm not a big fan of him. But if you're going with a threat to control a sizable portion of the Flanese, the Pomars is not sizable.
It's not, but
isolated.
I think it's super cool. I know, Sam, you know, we may differ on a couple things here, but I thought Joe did a really cool thing with it. Can anyone tell me what Dragon magazine where the humanoids are is?
It's a Seed of the Promartian Die
Right,
article.
but what Dragon number?
No, 63 is where the bandits are.
Yeah, it's where the bandits are. It's later than that. I thought Les would know like this. Because I could always, once again, it's in a Gavin. I know I had
167.
Yeah, March 1991.
Jinx.
167. All right, see if I can.
That's my line.
See if I can pull that up here. That's what she said. Oh, sorry.
There's a, you know, the other cool thing though to play with that.
Yep. And
the way that I kind of handle Provis in my campaign, because he's come up a few times, and likewise there's a similar Flan figure up around the Rakers.
Look at that! I already have the
coming
PDF
back
open to that page. Isn't that cool?
So the idea that I have in play is that you do have these kind of prophesied returning hero types, right?
Yes.
But for whatever reason, they don't return. And if the players choose to explore it, that could be a mystery for them to pursue. Like, why is it that Crovis has lain dormant all the time? Why is it that, given the situation in the Bone March and everything, this hero of the Rakers still sleeps? And one of the things I like about that is that it's almost a given that you'll have the character, you know, you'll have your once and future king. You'll have your champion of your eternal champion type serving as the enforcement of this hero deity or this entity. And I kind of like the idea, and again, this kind of ties back to my thick-headed Americanism and my fondness of the pulps. I kind of like the idea that you have these kinds of cults that would revolve around these mythic figures who are going to return, and then it's like everyone's like, okay, he's going to come and save us, right? Right.
It's just like praying.
Right.
It's just like in all. It's just like all in the King Arthur movies. That everyone praying to Saint Michael.
No.
Yeah. Well, or in this case, you know, I mean, that'd be the thing is Arthur's supposed to return in the hour.
Or Arthur himself. Yeah.
No, I just.
Or Elvis. But...
Or Elvis.
Going with that pulp image from what Les just said.
Yeah.
What if Crovis is actually the Earth Dragon?
That is a great idea.
Just as Les said that popped into my head.
Yeah.
But I have it that he's not. So you can have it that he has. I have it that he's not. I have it that he's like a balanced city Earth Dragon. That's the way I see it.
That also works too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I mean,
what happens if the balancing force doesn't wake up or isn't present? You know what I mean? That's the thing that fascinates me, because then the heroes have to step in and do that hero thing.
Well, that's it, and that's why Crovis is assigned. Actually, they got a Crovis weapon that made him champion in an adventure. So that's exactly what I did. You know, so because the story doesn't have to even go any further from that point, right?
Or you could put it a little further, where it turns out that what they think was Crovis's champion's weapon was planted by the other side.
You're always
and basically they're bringing about inevitable doom.
Huh? You're always about subterfuge and inevitable doom. That's true. You are a doom guy. That's all right.
No. Actually, I love the threat of doom, and then the opportunity for my players, if they choose, to actually do something heroic, even if the characters are not heroic.
Okay.
It's kind of like I can't keep stealing if everyone's dead, so I guess I got to save everyone's ass.
I mean, that's why the Doom Grinder was such a terrible module and such a waste of such a great idea.
Well, it's being redone, and you'll see it in GREYHAWK Grimoire.
But yeah, I mean, one may ask why is this an interesting topic? I mean, most people are not going to run a campaign in these eras. You know, you could run a campaign in that era, but it might. But the primary purpose, I think, is to sort of, you know, if you're placing something on the map, to know what was there before.
Yeah, I mean, we need to have our ancient ruins, our old relics, and old haunts and stuff like that. And,
right.
And and they need to make sense. At least I want them to make sense and to have like a story and so on.
You find a really old keep or a derelict tower or something, and you realize, oh, this was on the land that was once controlled by Vecna.
Yeah, and old tomes with mysteries, and all, like they go to a library and you research and you find stuff. So
I mean,
and some of these things can still be around, like dragons, monsters, and various things. I'm sorry.
What have I been running for the last month on my channel on Thursday nights for the Hateful Wars? The actual places that I'm going to be running next weekend, right?
Well, that is an ancient history. There's still
that's old
new history. Who fought in the Hateful Wars alive.
I understand that, but that's the first one I've done. So there comes Mike Disney in. Good to see you, Mike. That's the first one I've done, though. The second one I want to do is I want to be a sellout, because I want to get on the gravy train that it is and do one during the time of Vecna as a second historical one. So
but what is cool about that, Jay, is that you are traversing, the battlegrounds of the Hateful Wars, which probably are still a source of discovery and ruins and things that could echo to the modern time. Yeah.
Next Thursday, part 4 of the hints. Someone's going to actually try and start little foreshadowing, summoning some of these ghosts of these elves that were killed when Prince Saren went down on that spot. And you know why I'm doing that? Because I can't change the terrain that fast between Thursday and Friday night. So that's what I'm going to do right there. So,
what you need to do is to have a character there plant a time capsule or something that will echo up to the future and then be revealed in the current campaign.
Well, we had that with weapons already. They had found weapons from, in fact, Coco's character found her mother's dead mother, who was part of Prince Saren's retinue, spear already. So I'm doing that I'm making those connections. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, thanks. So this is great, especially if you want to. I say more and more people. Now that we're going to get an influx of new GREYHAWK people. We are. It's just going to happen with all the stuff. And that's why Virtual GREYHAWK this year is so big in October. That maybe want to explore doing historical scenarios. I don't see why. And when I mean historical, I mean pre-569, 570 adventuring, right? That's what we're talking about. So yeah. So, sorry, I went on a soapbox there.
No, we only have to look outside the gates of the city of GREYHAWK to see that there's a stone circle out there.
Yeah,
that wasn't built by the Iridians.
Absolutely. There's some awesome stuff. So let's do this. Let's pick a spot, go over it, and we'll try and do the oldest, and then go. Let's start with Solm, and where you can find some references to this.
Well, I go the oldest on the map is the Isles of Woe, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, start there.
Well, I would say I actually have the Isles of Woe, the people who founded it, as outcasts from the city-states that would later be united as the Empire of Solm. So to a degree, they're not as old, but they were the first actual Ur-Flan realm. It formed before Solm did.
So we're talking as much as 2,000 years in the past.
Oh yeah. This is
okay.
Yeah, I have Heran starting at -2150 common year, which is basically year 1.
So that's 2,700 years in the past. Yeah. -2100 minus 570 or plus 570, right?
Or
they said there'd be no math.
Yeah, all dates are common year. So it's the first year of the Flan calendar. The FT1 is when the first mage priest of Woe said, "Yep, we're here."
Okay. All right. So it's it's 2,700 roughly. All right.
So yeah, they're old.
And there even seems to be some I mean, Rob would be a good person to ask about this, but there seems to be some connection even between the Isles of Woe and the City of the Gods. So
really,
yeah. And Rob's character, or the NPC created Zunk, Tzunk, an anagram of Kunz, was supposed to be involved with the sinking of the Isle and the Codex of Infinite Planes. That might have been the reason why it sunk. Maybe they were playing with magic that was far beyond what mortals were supposed to deal with. They opened a gate to other planes of existence and let through things that weren't supposed to be here. Yeah.
Okay.
So
what happened?
so-
Where's the references at all to the Isles of Woe, and anything in here? And what happened to the Isles?
Okay, the Isles of Woe show up only where you can find the Codex of Infinite Plane. So the
Okay.
Dungeon Master's Guide, or maybe the Book of Artifacts.
Okay, good. That's great.
However, there's a whole bunch of Isles of Woe stuff that showed up in Living Greyhawk.
Okay.
And do not ask me the issues that they're in. They get the name Heran, Heraan, possibly a city or the largest island, I forget which. And their destruction is linked to.
You didn't say Heriac, did you?
No, Heran, Heraan. It is linked to a rather unliked plot line, the Ether threat, and they.
Oh God.
Yes, and then the whole
drunken
thing is,
ether threat.
Yes, the Isles went out of phase with the Flanays in order to stop the ether creatures from phasing in.
Into the 10.
Well, they were apparently, the Isles of Woe did something. They opened a portal and the ether creatures were coming to eat them. And then they shifted themselves using the Codex out of phase with the Earth.
So I would note two things. It is sometimes referred to as just the Isle of Woe. So it's possible that Gygax intended it to be one isle.
Okay.
Second, I think this is his attempt to put an Atlantis myth in the world of Greyhawk.
I like
this is your classic Atlantis, a culture that had extreme heights before the rise of all the modern cultures, and because of that, you could almost associate any legend with them you want, because you're not going to have a lot of contradiction. And so I think the main takeaway is these isles dominated a huge swath of the Flannis. It suggested that they were, their culture was dark, but as soon as they fell, there was some liberation there, and then the flowering of a bunch of other cultures in their wake. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we know that.
I'm sorry. I was just going to throw in as well. Worth noting the some of the conflicting lore about the Isles of Woe too. The Gygax versus Tzunk.
Yeah.
Stuff like some places identify Tzunk as the high priest, right? But it's generally. But it's also been given as like Tzunk has been presented in other sources, primarily Gygax, as an owner of the Codex of Infinite Planes.
You're right.
Whereas some of the later texts identify him as the high priest of who had on the Isle who had that, but other texts identify that as Gygax. So
yeah, a synonym
got a lot of leeway
for the Codex is the Gygax's tome. So
and you've got a lot of that's kind of beneficial in that it can drive your players crazy trying to sort the true history from the and I like that kind of thing. Like I said, I mean, there have been all kinds of examples in history of you have a text that's attributed to an author, and it turns out that the dating of the text is from 200 years after that author would have died. So it turns out you have, instead of the Dionysius, you have a pseudo Dionysius as the author. So those kinds of confusions take place historically. So it's not unheard of to inject a little bit of that into our campaign setting, if you will.
It brings up another issue, which is were the citizens or residents of the Isle of Woe the people who buried people in the Cairn Hills? We don't know the answer to that, but they're old enough to suggest that
I didn't know that
ancient culture.
Yeah.
Or at least some of the sites in the Cairn.
They could have built the Doom Grinder.
Mm-hmm.
They could have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Can I add one thing from the Living Greyhawk? There is one adventure from the Living Greyhawk that is called The Rise of the Ur-Flan. It's a Tusmet adventure written by Jim Ray. And it's actually it's set in Tusmet in the Sela Hills.
Yeah.
and it's a little place called Remoran, and it's a ghost story. And the players are going researching this story and going to the dig site and dig up evidence, and then there's some encounters and stuff like that. So it's kind of a this the title is kind of
It's
a little
paying
bit
homage to it.
preposterous.
That's what
Exactly.
it's
It's kind of
That's
yeah.
cool.
It's kind of a preposterous a little bit because it has nothing really to do much with the
Just all that
Flan, and they
goes
placed
there,
it in Two Smiths, so they needed a cool name, so it's the Rise of the Ur-Flan. But it's a cool ghost story, and it's a love story, and it's kind of it seems like a good
/love story.
yeah, exactly. It's like a Hamlet or something, but with a little bit better outcome than Hamlet. So yeah, so but it's a love story with ghosts and old Flan set in Tusmit in a place called Remoran in the hills. And now I need to check that, yeah, if I can actually have that placed.
So here's my question for the group while Anna's looking that up.
Mm-hmm.
Because of this, the Isles of Woe and the Code of Infinite Planes, is the Codex of Infinite Planes denoted probably the oldest of the artifacts in GREYHAWK?
Like that's tough because I really like the Throne of the Gods. If you go through if you go through Malden's website, he actually tries to make distinctions between elder artifacts and medium range artifacts and sort of new novel artifacts.
Just gave me an idea for another show there, Gary. I got to get my
Yep.
And I think there are artifacts that are just so old, like the Earthstone under Castle Greyhawk, that may, predate even the Codex. The Codex is written, so it suggests that it was probably produced in a more recent time frame. But yeah, I don't know the answer.
More recent. We're talking about 2000.
Yeah, recent as in 10,000 versus. It may have been written during the wars of the Queen of Chaos and the Windigs. Who knows? Yeah.
Right.
All right.
I haven't placed Remoran on the map. It's on the map list of places to place now. So yeah.
So if we're kind of going chronologically, I just want to note one place that I didn't really mark. Up if you go up to Perrinland, there is a city on the west side of Perrinland called Exag.
Yep.
Yeah. So this place is unique, and it contains a city built of clay, which is ancient, like thousands of years old, and we're not sure who built it, if it was even Flan. But if it was Flan, then it was definitely a unique society. So if you want to read up more on that, I'd go to Dungeon 145.
I just looked at that earlier and added it to my list. Negative 14,000 CY. It had been abandoned at least since negative 14,000.
So let's go Blecky Tepele or whatever.
Yeah. So maybe it may have been built by a race that wasn't human, but was occupied by Flan in later ages.
Yeah.
And Exag's still an active city, right?
It is. It's still occupied by people. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Matter of fact, that dungeon adventure is I think it's a couple. There are a couple of parts to it, but it's an adventure set in that city dealing with some nefarious goings on behind the scenes.
Yes, it's a 3-parter. But I was just looking at that earlier today, and I added it into my list.
Wow.
Oh, and actually, Gary, before we skip on, since we had mentioned the City of the Gods and whatnot.
Oh yes.
I think that ties in also the question of Blackmoor in relation to some of this stuff.
Yeah, the timing of all the things in Blackmoor is not perfectly set, but I think it's very old, and so we probably are still talking about Ur-Flan culture.
And because I know that I think it's in the Gazette, isn't it in the Gazetteer that the idea of there being a connection between like the Northern Adepts and being primarily protective in magic, and how some of the poetry preserves some of the magic that they have. I'm thinking it's somewhere in Living Greyhawk Gazetteer.
Okay. There is.
Might be wrong.
No, it's not in the Gazetteer. There is a or it could be, but there's in a set of feats. Lays of the Northern Adepts.
There you go. That was what I was thinking of. It was the feats that Mona did for 3.5 or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's something else I would add in there. I actually did place an Ur-Flan or a quasi-Ur-Flan because they're not evil, led by the eldest, opposing one of the earlier old ones in the region because of a reference in one of the Gord books.
Wow!
They give Gelor a cantil from the Rhymers of Blackmoor.
Yep.
And I would also note that there is a particular power who wields the cantil of the eldest, Alitamara.
Yeah.
And this actually relates to a whole bunch of it because I picked it. A cantil is a Finnish musical instrument, like a lute.
Probably a legacy of Gygax's interest in the Kalevala.
I think that absolutely.
I think yeah.
Absolutely, it must be. So, yes, I did put a little sip flans, or flanish, or advanced old faith, or whatever you'd call it, led by the eldest. And if you think that actually happens to be Alitamara, maybe not. If the old one is Ayuz, maybe not. Okay. And leading them, creating the Rhymers of Blackmoor, but then eventually retiring, and Blackmoor sinks into what it is.
We're gonna have a lot more Blackmoor discussion coming up.
Yeah, I could probably devote the whole show to Blackmoor.
Yeah.
Just before we intervene too, I just want to throw out there for people who might not necessarily know, since the Kalevala was just mentioned, the Kalevala is a very important text. It's a 19th century Finnish, basically a poet compiled the oral tales and folklore and mythology of Finland into this epic poem, and it was heavily influenced J.R.R. Tolkien. It heavily influenced Gygax. In fact, Mordenkainen's name is kind of a back homage to one of the figures in the Kalevala, and so that's why we're mentioning it. Yeah,
isn't he the one that dies and they have to get the rake out? The mom rakes him out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So that's why we're mentioning that book here in this context.
Okay. And Mike linked something to Cantil the Oldest in his from a GREYHAWK as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
So something I just picked up from Sam's point, which is, do you guys, asking the panel in general, do you guys consider Ur-Flan synonymous with evil?
Yes.
There are two ways for me to answer that. In the popular imagination of the Flaness, yes. In practice, probably no. For the reason that I mentioned earlier, everyone remembers the mass murderers. They tend to overlook ones who are less trigger itchy or less trigger fingered. And again, I guess that raises the question. You have character figures like Alyssa.
Right.
And her Nightingale. Do we consider her Ur-Flan?
We kind of have been, but I'm not sure if that's correct. I don't think Sargent would have considered her Ur-Flan.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
we know very little about her personality per se.
Exactly. Her kingdom seems to be widely admired by the Iridians, but that doesn't imply good.
Yeah. Nor does that necessarily imply that you can admire the Greeks could admire any number of cultures that they viewed as barbaric, right?
Right.
While still viewing them as barbarians.
Right.
So.
I had contemplated that. If I were to say that Alyssa was evil, how would I imagine that? Well, her Nightingale is based on enchantment. So, what if pretty much she used enchantment at first just to keep order, but eventually everyone in the kingdom is mass charmed to love her, and everyone is mass permanently suggestion to be happy. Now all of a sudden that's not particularly good. I mean, she's not evil. She's not sacrificing hecatombs to fiends to be torn to pieces. But Yeah, everybody is spelled up to be good.
Well,
Because
since we're on the subject, when do you assert the founding of this kingdom, and when did it run its course and
Yeah, good
disappear?
question.
okay, we know it ends around -100 according to Ibid.
Okay, that's
I
well past the migrations.
Right. It is in fact taken after the Kingdom of Erde is founded. It is allegedly conquered, I'm presuming, by someone of the Crandons, which would be someone from oh geez, from Bastion of Fate, the Heronians from Bastion of Fate, the Almorian whatever things.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was usurped by Turney the Merciless. And we know that from
but we also know that she created that nightingale about 17, 16 centuries ago. So that puts her
right.
pretty old. Like she's up there at the same time as Vecna's starting out.
Yeah,
So
I have her showing up around -1300.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when I have her showing up.
it's about almost 2000. Yeah.
And then her empire passes around -100. And that's like really the -100 is kind of set. The -1300 is my best guess, and picked it to kind of spread them out a bit.
The timing works with a fall of the Isles of Woe too. So could she have been a survivor?
Possibly. I hadn't even contemplated. I'd sort of contemplated that perhaps Acererak was a refugee from Trask, wandered in, was sheltered in the Nightingale realm of Alyssa for a time, and then stuff went bad, and he went into the vast swamp and returned to return to his necromantic origin, his necromantic roots among the Taraski.
It is unfortunate that they connected to Sararak and Vecna, because I feel like that makes the Flannis seem small.
Yes.
I don't consider that at all.
Yeah.
I don't. Other people want to, but I don't.
The only reason I incorporate the way I incorporate that is it's more than likely just apocryphal, and it's just a folk, if that makes sense, in the same way that like you have scary boogeyman stories that fuse over the centuries. Basically someone started, it just started at some point, the idea of associating those two. And of course, it feeds into the idea that a Sararak has a tendency to betray everybody who he works with. It just becomes another iteration of that story. Does that make sense?
It's
Like
so
any folktale or legend.
Yeah, I mean,
it just winds up assimilating. If you were to dig for its truth, then you would probably realize that that problem. It's the way that it's presented in some of the later books. It wouldn't have worked. Like, I'm pretty sure Vecna would have been sorely ticked off at some of Acerak's antics, had he been an apprentice or something. So, yeah, I just assume that this is just a folktale.
Yeah.
Except at Watsy.
I'd keep Acerak on his side of the map. Maybe create a connection to the Trask. Maybe create a connection to Alyssa. Maybe even create a connection to Nuri if necessary. But I keep him on his side. He doesn't have to go over to hang out with Vecna.
I think one thing you guys would note about the map is that there are a bunch of demi-human realms in the Flannis.
Right.
And I think in almost every case, they're all older than all the Flan realms that are nearby. So that's worth noting, I think, is that the elves may have had, and Sam and I talked about this earlier today, they may have had bigger realms that appear on this map. But like I said, this map isn't chronologically consistent. It's just trying to show all the ancient realms without overstepping each other.
Right.
But Selene might have been over the mountains in what we call now the Duchy of Ulek. you might have. I'm suggesting there on that map that the Adri and the Grandwood were once one greater wood that grew together in the center there, where essentially the Iridians cleared the land to create their capital.
Right.
Yes.
So, and then in the case of these dwarven kingdoms, I mean, they don't require a lot of land, but they would be almost impossible to dislodge.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
And notably, there are some significant gnomish kingdoms in the Flannis. What there are not is any evidence of halfling kingdoms.
Yep.
Is that evidence of some theory that we might propose about halflings?
Yeah, I'll give you a theory. I'll give you that. I'll give you a theory too. There's no evidence of halfling kingdoms until the Third Age in Middle Earth either. The Shire doesn't exist until late in the Third Age. Same difference.
And
Right.
do we get an explanation from where they came from?
Not really.
From
River
the
people.
Anduin.
That's it. I mean, it's not much.
They were so, okay, where Frodo and company, where Bilbo encounters Bjorn in The Hobbit.
Right.
The halflings were somewhere around there, and then for some reason they went over the mountains and settled in the Shire.
Yeah.
And then that's.
They decided they'd settle down and become good little bourgeois citizens of their.
Well,
Okay.
so there's a variety of theories. One of which is that perhaps the halfling migrated along with the Iridians, and kind of view the Iridian culture as a protector culture, and so they tend to go where they go, settle nearby, thrive under the protection of the humans, and then they're always there essentially. But
there aren't any halfling kingdoms in GREYHAWK as it is. There's just a couple towns.
Yeah, they're very small.
I went a different route. Originally I had the halflings as a dual form, as half of the Flan race. That the halflings have always been there because they're just part of the Flan. But later I modified it and made them literally, yes, halflings. The halflings are half Fae. That's something I picked up from written after D&D. It was written by Jack Vance in the Leoness trilogy.
Yeah.
I don't like the halflings as Fae because they seems to be the least magical, right? They seem as mundane as humans, except that they're small. So sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, that's the thing. They're the half Fae who chose to be mortal. And that's why they have no magic. They chose their parents were, one human, one fairy, but they said, no, I'm gonna be human and give up all that magic. And the ones that chose to be Fae and chose to have magic are the brownies. Because if you go back to the AD&D Monster Manual, brownies are said to be relatives of halflings.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yep. Good point.
I'm just going to say they were wanderers until then. It's easy for me. I'm very about simplistic answers.
But also remember, Koss the Hobniz ruled Tycheron for Vecna.
No.
Oh.
Sam, don't make me people-head, please. Mike, what are your thoughts about Koss being a halfling? There you go.
I will convert you all eventually.
You'll convert me when Thrommel's a vampire. There you go. That's the answer to that question. It's okay. So all right, I want to know about this. I want to know about this tyranny of the Ur-Flan necromancers. It sounds cool. What's going on out here? North Province.
Yeah, as I mentioned, that was literally the original reference of the Ur-Flan.
Okay.
In Tribute in Dragon, the Ur-Flan fought the Kingdom of Summer Stars, the city of Summer Stars, in the Adri Forest. And first they was the usual. First they're friendly, and then they started wanting more stuff, more magic. And eventually they started a massive war. The Ur-Flan were calling in demons and other fiends, unleashing horrible magics. The elf prince of the kingdom created one of those insanely evil super artifact swords went completely Fugazi, killed just wrecked the Ur-Flan, killed all the elves, and eventually the city is settled into a cursed frozen state.
Do we know what year that happened?
We don't have an absolute year. I think I put it at negative 613. That's from my best musings from reading Sargent and then knowing that the Trask were wrecked in negative 142 from Ibid the Undying. The Trask disappeared in negative 142, conquered by the Nalax. And so I put them just getting wrecked with the City of Summer Stars around 500 years earlier. And one other thing with the Necromancers of Trask.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that made the Causeway of Fiends.
Right.
Oh, which is up here somewhere.
Right. So that's
it's a little island offshore, I think.
Yeah, that's another critical element. They're the ones who made the Causeway of Fiends, and that may have been the source of the material for the Malachite throne.
It's on Anna's map, but not Darlene's map.
Right.
But which one are you talking about?
Causeway of Fiends.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'll bring it.
But it's okay because it's on the latest map too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
it's on the
Schley
map.
Mike Schley, we now know used you as inspiration.
Yes, and I love it. So
we'll find out more.
Yeah. I'm just going to see what
in 2 Sundays.
Yeah. It's not named, but it's on the map. The way I drew it. So that's the cool thing. So it's yeah.
To add to what Sam's talking about, I think these people worshipped Demogorgon, Orcus, fiends in general.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
They were not followers of the old faith. They were followers of whatever perverted the old faith. And undeath was, one of the keys to breaking the circle of life, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that laid the seeds for what later happened to the Great Kingdom. The idea that Demogorgon can wait centuries to take
exactly. It ties into the late story. Yeah, I love that idea. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
By the way, that's some of that description of the Ur-Flan and how they dealt with the in the Coldwood and with the City of Summer Stars. That is in Dragon 208, page 54, I believe. Cool.
Let me see.
Yeah, and I think,
and it mentions specifically them summoning fiends and plaguing the place with undead. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's how they matched up with the elves, essentially. But I kind of leave the suggestion that there's a lot of ruins and artifacts and things discovered in those lands in the Nalax North Province that may explain a little bit of their dark nature, a little bit of their fiend-seeing throne, or as Gygax used, demon-seeing throne. So the history is essentially creating the future, and perhaps the Nalax were not as dark a faction among the Aerdi as they eventually became, but were in sense infected by the evil they had to inhabit.
There you go.
Yeah. In one of the things I have that I just finished, I do there's that little bit of Trask culture in North Kingdom culture that manifests as a predilection for necromancy up there.
Yeah, and it fits perfectly with the Church of Hextor.
Yes.
Yep.
Very cool.
So I think it might be cool to have a digression here now where maybe Les talks about religion among the Flan. I mean, he has some really cool articles in the York Journal, and he's done some stuff in his campaign. I think that, kind of show you how the echoes of the past can affect like the current campaign setting.
Let's do it. Great idea.
Okay, where shall I begin?
I mean, you could focus on either, I don't know, do you want to do the Spinecastle ideas or the Wild Coast, or?
I can do both at various points. With Spinecastle, the article that Gary co-authored that was in Dragon Magazine, and of course the Adventure in Dungeon, it kind of goes into the idea that the where the fighting pits are now in Spine Castle was once the Victory Garden. Prior to that, when the Airity came, they made a Victory Garden. Prior to that, it was a boneyard for the Sul barbarians, and prior to that, it was a kind of stone circle, a meeting site for the Druids. And in my particular campaign, my characters, because of the entities that tie into the strange stone structure thing, which I'll be returning to at Virtual GREYHAWK Con, had left a gap underneath the city. These are beings who come from other planes to trade with humans who are suffering or in need. But they had left a gap. When they had withdrawn their structure there, it left a hole underneath the city, and my player characters needed to pass through that space. And they did. There are some caverns relating to the previous populations underneath the city. But they walked through a memory of ritual sacrifice. Baori had filled the space that was now taken, a space of oath, if you will, that was taken, and had filled it with a memory from the past. And what it was when the Spine Castle had been first consecrated. Not the Spine Castle itself, mind you. I'm talking about the land. And so they saw figures, horned figures, sacrificing someone who may have been a wereboar or may have been wearing a boar mask, and who the people who were performing the sacrifice referred to as the boar the boar or swine that tore the world's spine. And they were watching the ritual sacrifice of this as they passed through. And so the idea here is that there's something underneath Spine Castle, Spine Keep in particular. There's something in the Rakers that again, you have this idea of sleeping heroes, sleeping deities. I like the idea that there's something sleeping underneath the land, right?
Right. Yeah.
And basically the Druids were kind of trying to make sure, rockabye baby. Even if it requires blood sacrifice periodically, just to keep the thing appeased and keep the thing resting. And that can be disturbed, right? My players, in fact, may have disturbed something profoundly bad underneath the Rakers. And again, this is that idea of continuity being important for the Flan, and the Ur-Flan having this desire to step outside of continuity, to become immortal, to manipulate powers that would run the Earth, cause the Earth cycles to go amok. But they're smarter and more powerful.
Like the Flan are more attuned to the natural world.
Yeah.
That they know the existence of ley lines and places of power.
But they live there for much longer than
they have, and
the other one, especially compared to the Origians. And
it may be their connection to the Earth Mother or some of the more primitive powers. But in your campaigns, the idea is that you can use the Ur-Flan as sort of, or the Flan in general, as sort of this, ancient religion that can essentially affect activity in the modern world because it has such roots.
And I think one of the other things relative to that would be with the Ur-Flan, you're touching on something that's dear to my heart there. The Ur-Flan, because of their particular fields of interest, would have loved the knowledge of ley lines, etc. But for various reasons in my thing, it was the Druids who, the Flan and the Old Faith, who actually had access to that particular knowledge.
Right.
So they're the ones who understand the oath and the flow of magic and the flow of blood and everything else. The Ur-Flan are more concerned with how I'm using this for power, I'm using that for power. I need this information. I need to know where the most powerful site I could potentially set up something is.
And I don't need to know the downsides or the risks.
Exactly. So they will negotiate with Druids, they will haggle with Druids, they will torture Druids to get the information that they need.
Sargent introduced an interesting concept to the setting, which is these various substrates that were magical, like Orth blood,
yeah,
Dwerrnite, literally magic stones, probably the precursors of ion stones. So, and then things like helixes that are like magical, phenomenon in the sky.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think all of this is stuff you could play with, and it'd probably have its roots in the Flan and Ur-Flan, perhaps even residue of some of the extreme magic they unleashed
Yeah,
in the past.
in mine, and I mentioned this, I think one of the last times I was on. Moxlick, to come back to Moxlick.
Yeah, please.
The idea that, and I should clarify what Moxlick is. Moxlick is, as originally described, he is the source of all magic. He is also a deity, only later he's described as not being a deity. He's described as being a primal entity, along the lines of the lady of pain in Sigil or something like that, right? He is something that's always been there, and is constant. Unlike the gods, he can't die.
And he's a dragon-like snake.
Well, he's a snake. And I think that's a very
well.
distinct
You have
thing.
the world snake from Old Norse mythology,
exactly.
So yeah, it's a bunch of. Yeah.
I just want to draw a distinction there because you can conflate the Earth Dragon with him, but again, it kind of specifies in some of the writing that the Earth Dragon was a local entity, a local spirit of the Pomage.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to separate those, but nonetheless, in my thinking, what's happened was when he was going to sleep, when he infuses the serpent infuses the world with magic, right? And likewise infuses certain bloodlines with magic. So you have these sorcerer kings and you have these sorcerer priests. The thing that happens though, and obviously there's going to be a division then, because magic, how can I put this? Arcane magic is very much about understanding and manipulating the physical world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Druids take more of a gardener's perspective on this thing. Whereas you might say that the Flan are the guys who are going to come in with the blueprints and level everything and create a shopping mall of the undead or something. That's a bad comparison, but you get my idea there. It's basically more of a means of technology and control than it is recognition.
Okay.
And being part of it.
Les, do you have a theory for why the Ur-Flan or Flan in general end up with so many despots?
Yeah, I have a very definite thinking. It's one of those things, and again, I suspect that this is what led. I know that with your extensive knowledge and contributions to lore about the Death Knights, you can probably see some similarities here. It's where ego and hubris and the belief that I am somehow an exception or I should be. See how well I'm ruling. I could rule much better if ...
I could rule for another 200 years.
I agree, Les. I just want to add that I think it's was kind of when they found that they could do it, it became like a fashion, so to speak. That one found out that they
self-fulfilling.
Exactly. It was like once the knowledge that undeath was available, it became almost fashionable, meaning rulers wanted to rule for a long time. And if some neighbor ruler did it and they figure out it was possible, then the knowledge and the idea, and it became almost fashionable. That's my theory.
Well, exactly. There's that line from a T.S. Eliot poem, after such knowledge, what forgiveness?
Exactly.
And that's kind of the way that I tend to look at it, is that they unlocked achievement unlocked, you just damned yourself.
Then it spread because other
but they don't care, because as long as they don't die, they don't have to pay that bill. So that would be my thing on that. And I think that the Moxlick thing, and I also would point in that as time moves on and those bloodlines dilute, you have the interesting question that I think Sam and Sean kind of injected into their article about Vecna, where it raises the possibility: was it Vecna's voice? Was it the serpent's voice talking to Vecna, or was Vecna talking to himself, or is he crazy?
Oh yeah,
or both.
Yeah, that's kind of hinted at to some degree in Vecna Reborn.
Yeah,
Moxlick is made more real in Die Vecna Die. I was actually on the point of deleting Moxlick, but then Gary had his idea related to All Hell. And so I said, no, I'll use Moxlick as a name and form of Yachak the Violet Flame, a full-on
Yeah.
Craftian level evil. And yeah, he's subverting Vecna. One thing I would add with why did the Flan have so many tyrants? The Flan calendar starts effectively as the Age of Glory starts. The main time frame of when the Ur-Flan tyrants are about is the Age of Glory.
When the Sul and Baklunish empires were at their heights.
Right. So this not only are these wizards here and all of a sudden they're thinking, I can do this. Well, there's that surplus magic flowing around the world at the time. Everybody, everywhere is doing this. I think about the only people who don't have this kind of uber tyrant are the Iridians. They get a few people showing up with artifacts later, but the Iridians are just migrating. They're actually, on the low end of their history cycle at this time. But you have the mages of power in the Sulawese Empire, and they're going to go up and unleash the invoked devastation. You have the mage priests of the Baklunish Empire, and they're going to unleash the rain of colorless fire. Okay, well, none of the Ur-Flan tyrants did that. Okay, they sank the Isle of Woe, but they didn't destroy 2 entire regions. So are they really that bad compared to what the Baklunish and Sulawese were capable of?
And I think it's interesting too, because Sam, I was thinking along similar lines. Of course, you have the the Society of the Serpent, right? And the idea that the Society of the Serpent found its founder purportedly found was a Sul. The article claims that he was half Sul, half Flan. Be that as it may, it claims that he was basically from the Imperium, and he found Caraptus's seal with its serpent type imagery, and then came back and created this kind of false history where the society had always been around. Caraptus had been a member, later Acererak is a member, and it's this place where the Baklunish and the Sul and the Ur-Flan can all exchange ideas. Now, of course, what I've done is I've tweaked that slightly because it seems such a utopian cultural exchange seems kind of contrary to what would have gone on in my conception of the Sul Imperium. What I have instead is that how can I put it? We're not above stealing other people's magic or procuring people who they could learn about that magic from. But it becomes more an idea of asserting themselves into a position where they can gain what knowledge they can from the outside. This is a very small faction within the Sul Imperium. It's not a common one, and the current Society of the Serpent has built up this golden age of the Sul Imperium when they were trading magical ideas with everybody, and they had this tower that was eventually destroyed in the Cataclysm, but it was a site of great learning and cultural exchange, etc. And my point is that this is a mythology that they've accrued and deliberately inserted into their own past. But again, it ties into that idea of the serpent and the idea that these kingdoms were these peoples were all coming into their own with powerful arcane magic around the same time.
Do you think they were all aware of each other? Do you think Vecna knew about the mages of power and vice versa?
I think that there would be, given the power of magic and I guess the sensitivity that would have come with it, I think you may not be perfectly aware, but you would have some knowledge that there are others. And in fact, that probably would feed it. Your own paranoia would probably feed your desire for more power, if that makes sense. If there's someone out there, and I can sense that there are entities out there who are more powerful than I am, they might seek to take what I have. And so, for the good of my people, of course, I'm going to prolong my life and I'm going to extend my power. And of course, maybe they'll say publicly to their people that they're doing it for their people's own good. Maybe they don't believe that. Maybe they do. But the point being that they're not there. That being aware that there are outsiders. Some of them would probably be motivated to gain even more power because they don't want anyone taking what's theirs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure most of them could sense or feel someone else wielding magic on that level.
So
two notable things not on that map that the guys just made me think about. I don't have Caraptus noted there because I'm not sure to credit him in the White Plume Mountain or back in Tostenka in the mountains, and what is his relationship to the rest of the 10 people, and what that time frame looks like. But Sam could probably do a little research on that. And then the other thing is the old one is not there.
Right.
Okay. For Caraptus, from what I can gather, Tostenka was negative 1400 to negative 800.
Yeah, that's what I've got.
Caraptus was in Tostenka from negative 1300 to negative 1100. And then he was wandering until negative 800. He got to White Plume Mountain. He eliminated the Hierophants of the mountain, drew it from an elder age. And so that's the end of Tostenka. And then Caraptus is in White Plume Mountain until, I mean, technically he is the last surviving Ur-Flan tyrant. He's there until around 50 Common Year, when he finally leaves and goes wandering the plains.
Okay.
But he's not ruling anything. He's just chillaxing there. He's actually just hanging out, just doing his researches.
He would have been a hidden figure from the Iridians?
Yes. Well, the thing is, from the time frame, I think he should actually be there till around 100 or 150 CY. But I find it hard to believe the Iridians would not have seen White Plume Mountain as they're crossing the prairies and getting over to Ferron and
well, what is the relationship? What is the relationship of the Shieldlanders to White Plume Mountain? Is that within their territory or just outside their territory?
It's just outside, I think.
Yeah, that's later. I think it's just outside. Or okay, there is a small town whose name I'm forgetting right now. It appears in I Use the Evil. It is full of. It's full of Shieldlanders, and it also appears in Return to White Plume Mountain.
You're talking about Ringland?
It could be Ringland.
Ringland's pretty far away from it.
And it has a ward on it.
Yeah, it's Ringland.
Yeah, it has a ward on it that keeps evil creatures from remembering it. But that is part of the Shieldlands, and you're supposed to stop in there on the way to White Plume Mountain and return to White Plume Mountain. So I don't think the Shieldlanders claim it. The territory around it is way too nasty, but they know where it is, and it's probably, and our border's stopping right about here, and we're not going over there, because anyone who goes there never comes back.
Yeah, well, there's towns further to the east than Ringland is for... Yeah,
I have a write-up of Ringland for my campaign. It's coming. I wrote up the story and made the maps and the NPCs and stuff for Ringland. So you will get a Mythology version of Ringland that ties into that story.
Cool.
Mind you, I could see the border actually being around White Plume Mountain, to going around the north of it. I don't think White Plume Mountain is completely within the Barren Waste, or... I don't know. I've never really studied the geography of the area. Looking at that, from what I can see, if that's the Rift Canyon, then I'd say, those nasty bits, the thickets, the Thing Gizzard Swamp, that would put White Plume Mountain as the start of the Barren Waste and just outside of the Shieldlands.
What about on your map? What's Verlis, since it's on the map?
So that is something I created for, I think, Dungeon Magazine. It's essentially
you created it. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a citadel that sat within the canyon, in the walls of the canyon. You've ever seen the New Mexican Anasazi cities that are still, relatively intact, and you can imagine people living within those canyons? You would almost be invisible, because as the Iridians rode past this place, you could go walk up to almost to the lip of the canyon, and you would never know there were potentially 1,000 people tucked
Got
under
it.
the lip. So they were Flan scholars, artisans who essentially survived the fall of the Isles of Woe. They were a client state of the Isles of Woe and continued to live on for centuries after its fall. And the place fell shortly after the arrival of the Uridians in the Flan, as they essentially had almost a panic on the arrival of these strangers, and fell under the sway of a shadowy figure, a prophet, that told them they had to, essentially worship a certain power in order to get their the protection they needed to survive. And they all got turned into these shadowy creatures, and all their works and all the gold and other wealth that they had stored there essentially was just sitting there until Zagig from the Free City of Greyhawk came and plundered the place.
Do you go there at the Age of Worms? Is that part of that? I always get them confused.
I do not know if Age of Worms mentions it.
It does not. No,
Yeah.
you do not get to go into Verolos in Age of Worms, but you get to go into a bunch of other stuff in the Rift Canyon.
Yeah, it's a huge place.
Because I remember Casey talking about it extensively, the whole area, and I was wondering if it was one of the ones that he talked about.
What's shaded there in pink is sort of the land they kind of claimed as their domain. It's not very big.
That reminds me to pester you again, Gary. You never gave me a date for when you think Verolos was built.
No, I did not give a starting date. So it'll be somewhere south of 2,000 years ago, because I don't want it to significantly predate the fall of the Isles of Woe, but it'll have fallen in 950 years ago, essentially.
Yeah, I do have it. It falls around -400, but I don't know when it starts.
Okay. Well, when we finish this map, we'll kind of nail down some of the dates, and maybe even make a little chart for people so they can get some of the best guess ranges from people who have studied this material way too much.
Yes.
Gary, Sam, Jay, Anna, I'm curious, when it comes to this kind of stuff, and I'm thinking about these maps, and I'm thinking about how these maps would overlay with present day maps.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys often use the idea of that there are locations that, for recent local populations, certain sites are considered taboo?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm not going to go there, and generally people who are smart and good don't go there.
Think about Fleeth in Grand March.
Yeah.
I can see that as one of these locations that is avoided due to it's in an area that is kind of inhabited and civilized around, but people probably avoid it. But that might also be that there's some unsavory people that are drawn there for digging up treasure or to simply hide away from
right
others.
nearby. I would say say the Rushmores themselves probably have such a baleful reputation.
Oh yeah. But many people know that the ruins of Fleeth are there, but people tend to avoid it. That's why I put it in the forests, because people don't go there to chop down for firewood or anything. So that's why the trees grow around Fleeth, so to speak. So
I think I hadn't gotten to that part. I've been just so much trying to figure out where these kingdoms would be, what their borders would be, how they would relate to modern borders. I hadn't actually considered the taboo areas.
Because I like the idea of throwing in, like, for example, there is a kind of like even though it's Iridian, but you can have similar things with the Flan, like Bad Deep in the Gnarly, right, where that Iridian warlord's sons slaughtered each other and the ground became blighted. You can have these places where something happened, and it's the stuff of folklore and whispered stories to children at night to keep them behaving.
Absolutely. And in the case of the Flan, they had more time to create these places.
Exactly. And also it has more time for you to get overlays and layers of distortion from, like, the Iridian retelling of the Flan story. or the Sewell variant that then the Iridians adopted. If you see what I mean, where you wind up with these different elements that wind up incorporated to the point where maybe the local population's version of what happened doesn't quite jive with the actual history, because it's become folkloric, it's become the stuff of legend, but there nonetheless are elements of truth within those layers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you could definitely have some Flan practicing some, Wicker Man type. Wicker Man type religions that they don't even know what the origins were anymore. They're just following the tradition.
Yeah, well, it's like the piece I'd published in the OJ about those bog scarecrows, right?
Oh, that's awesome.
They basically were. Yeah, just the idea that at one point you had a necromancer and a druid, and they would serve as the judges, and then if you were found guilty of having harmed the tribe, they would make you of use to the tribe by basically preserving your body in a bog peat and then recovering it and restoring your soul, which they had soul jarred and is now insane, into it, and then putting a permanent spell on it and making sure that you're paralyzed.
Yeah, and if anyone in the audience has seen pictures of those European bog mummies, I mean, they're definitely creepy looking.
And the idea is that you're now protecting the tribe's stuff. Right? No, because the birds are going to freak out when they come near animals that might want to snack on some of the grain or whatever you're growing. They're going to run away.
It's interesting you bring that up, because lately I've been thinking, which culture would I assign mummy undead most to? And I'm starting to think I would do it with the Flan, because I think it just doesn't fit the Iridian and the Sewell and that Clunish societies. I think it would fit the Flan.
I agree.
Okay.
And of course, they wouldn't be stereotypical Egyptian mummies, but mummies nonetheless.
Yeah. There are different. I mean, there are so many different types of mummies in different cultures and in different climates. Yeah, absolutely. I would have some of my Flan at least have mummification practices, and it might just be like exposure to the environment causing mummification, right? It just depends, but yeah, definitely. I mean, that was part of my thinking with the whole bog mummy thing.
So, couple places. Nuria, is that Almor mostly? Modern day Almor, or is it a mix?
Modern day Niron mostly.
Niron,
a little bit of Almor too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Completely invented by yours truly.
Okay.
Yep. Another one of Gary.
So it's not published anywhere.
It is mentioned in Dungeon Magazine, I think, or Living Greyhawk Journal, right. but it's not described. It's meant as a hook for DMs to run with. Yeah.
Yeah. I decided to place Zagi and Zagi, related to artifacts, one of whom helped make the Queen Alyssa's Nightingale. It's like, who would rule Nuria? So I put Zagi and Zagi from the Talisman of Zagi and Zagi from Queen Alyssa's Marvelous Nightingale.
Oh, okay.
I had them as rivals of the Isles of Woe.
We all know that Niron is so boring. So, sorry, Von Milku.
He just said he did a hook for Nuria on his site. So
no, but the idea is that there are, and this actually comes a lot from Michael's campaign, which is he's done a fantastic job of doing ancient history for. The idea is that there are ruins in Niron. There are things to explore. There are things to find. You just have to look.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but and I know we glanced over it, but Solomon Attar is mentioned in Rary the Trader, but then is it Luby or Creighton Broadhurst had a big article on it too, if I recall.
Creighton wrote most all the articles, but Paul Luby was involved in writing some of the adventures for that arc.
Okay.
The Blight on Bright Sands arc. Well, actually, there were a couple. There was like a preliminary arc there, and then there was the big sort of campaign arc, yearly campaign arc, Blight on Bright Sands.
Yeah, and the articles, the Mysterious Places, the Bright Lands was Creighton, Paul, and Stu, and likewise the Dungeon Magazine article for Polyhedron that was about the Bright Desert was also those three plus Andrew Maguire, I think.
And as a result of that, there's something not there. It's very minor, but if you go to Onwall, there was pretty much the area not included in the Flan Kingdom of Alyssa. There was a pre-Flan or maybe a really early Flan, the Kingdom of Caer Duralor, and a bunch of Tiamat worshippers on the Dragon's Head. The Dragon's Head Peninsula there.
Okay.
And the survivors of that are the ones. It collapsed. When did it collapse? I was just looking. It collapsed around -4,000 CY.
Oh my God.
Some of the survivors went across the Sea of Girnat. They wound up in the Solomon Itar lands. They lurked about, and they're responsible for corrupting Solm and turning it on its passive imperialism and then eventually self-destruction. So that's from one of Crichton's articles.
Okay. Wow. That's really old.
And there's also, let me go ahead and post this other link since we're talking about sources on Thulm and whatnot. This would be the Eric Mona piece that was over at posted on Wizards of the Coast back in the day about. There we go.
Cool.
It is Reflections in Silica, which would be
wow.
Mona's thoughts. It was posted on the Living Greyhawk message board about the history, some more of the history of that area.
He's written stuff that I guarantee he doesn't even remember he wrote.
Probably not.
Yeah.
He still owes us Backlunish Delights Part 2.
Well, he just posted. He's like, man, I've been at Paizo 22 years now, or whatever. So
yeah,
crazy. All right, so we're winding down here. So give us some final thoughts as to. I know how this flew by, right? Like it always does. Give us some final thoughts. So Anna, what are your thoughts on everything that's going on in this discussion?
I think it was a good kind of going haywire everywhere when it comes to the Ur-Flan, and I love it. With so many tangents, I've taken notes. We got and thank you, Gary, so much for this map and stuff. I think this, to me, this is that legendary mythical backdrop that I crave for my campaigns because I want to have, where do these things come from? Ancient treasures, habits, artifacts, places, and myths, and all of that. That's the living, breathing kind of the fuel for a campaign, so to speak. And this is where it comes from. So I think this is really, really interesting and should be center to any campaign. I have theories. I agree with a lot of this. There's some things I will tweak in a different direction. I'm going to to post a link here because I did some Flan heraldry that I posted earlier on my blog. So I posted in there. There's a heraldry of the Flan. There you have Sul, Mitar, and a bunch of stuff, names that we thrown around here that I did heraldry on them. Some of them are just my own design from scratch. Some of them are actually from little tidbits of sketches and art we have from published sources, so to speak. So they're more or less speculation. So yeah. So thank you all, Les and Gary and Sam and everybody who's been watching and playing part of this.
And doing the research and coming up with some new ideas.
Exactly. It's awesome. Yeah, I love it.
I mean, it's a lot of work. Mike, what are your thoughts? You've been quiet most of the time.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff I've talked with all these guys about in various chats and in forums, and very not having been on here a long time, I very much feel like a spectator. But I do not disagree with anything that was said. So it was almost just like, I was just hanging back, not stepping on any toes. Completely agree with everything that was brought up today. One thing that we didn't maybe cover, I know we talked to Gary about, and probably Sam one night, is what is the sweet spot in this Ur-Flan, ancient Flan timeline? Like if you were going to put a campaign, what's the sweet
Sounds
spot?
like between -500 and -100.
Like, what's the year that most of these
Yeah.
places existed at the same time?
Yeah, if you're gonna run a game where
I think around -1100, -1200.
Oh wow.
They were all there.
Yeah.
Around -1100, -12, they were all there for about 150 years or so.
Yeah.
And then they
So-
started killing themselves.
Yeah.
Wow.
So interesting stuff.
It is.
Yeah, imagine a Age of Glory box set to match, the Arcane Age stuff from Forgotten Realms. That would have covered, all these places, the Sul and Baklunish empires, the Ulman Empire, which we didn't bring up today, but would have been just south of a lot of these places, in it at its height. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting topic, because often you need to know what's below your feet, and humans tend to build on top of previous cities and previous ruins, and so it's the ancient histories that's the source of your current adventure ideas.
100%, absolutely. Thanks for that. That's a good tie in there, Gary. So, Sam? What do you think?
What everyone said. This is an incredible area. It's incredible potential. There's so much, but at the same point, there's so little. We have vague references. This many centuries ago, that many centuries ago, this was there, that was there. We don't have hard, fast information about anything, and we have a lot of contradictory information.
If we happen to make connections, they're mostly serendipity.
Oh yeah, the serendipity factor is something Gary's mentioned. I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
It's almost like finding fossils and trying to stitch together a dinosaur.
Yes,
what you found, like
exactly,
Brontosaurus.
Yeah.
So and there's been cases of monsters created because of that. The things that did not actually exist.
So as it goes, one of my big projects is an ancient history. I took the outline, all this outline that the Ur-Flan that I could find that I've discussed tonight, and then I just patched in the ancient histories of the Sul and Baklunish. Hopefully, it'll be out by the end of the year. It's either do that, or I had another project come up, more modern project, and I got so much input from the two Pauls and even some from Mike that I am actually going to push that ahead of the queue, because it's like, they helped. I had to put out their version as well as my new canon version of it, and I'll probably have that out soon, and then I'll go to my ancient history, and you'll see my outline of all this stuff. And also, Gary's finishing up Visions 3. You'll see something I worked on with him. I mentioned this regarding IUs.
That relates to tonight's topic very strongly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes. So there's potential here, and we're developing it. And even if you don't like it, like poor people hate my poor Cosniz, maybe it'll give you maybe it'll provoke you to come up with some ideas and fill in a whole bunch of this stuff.
It's always that's it. It's always thought provoking. That's what we try and do on all the talk shows and discussions. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you, Les? Some final thoughts.
One of the things that I like to play with, because again, you're getting into a game where player agency is a thing, but so is the outcome of a dice throw. So one of the things I like to play with in mind would be, I mentioned Moxlick gifting the Oath with magic, and gifting individuals with magic. I like to play with the idea that with the Flan, as with the Sul and the Baklunish, magic is a tool, right? As I suggested, I think it's almost like it's an equivalent in this world of a form of technology. And as we know, any form of technology or any body of knowledge can be used for good or ill.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of like the idea that people vilify Moxlick, but all Moxlick would have done was give them the tool. And then lo and behold, it's their own hubris and greed, etc., that tends to drag everything to the point of apocalypse, if not past. And so I kind of like that idea. I'm working on that article about Moxlick, of course, so
it's awesome.
I'm kind of been thinking quite a bit about that, and how, of course, it's easy to vilify. And let's face it, when you have this many magical Armageddons, if you will, throughout a world, it's understandable that people be a bit sketchy about magic at times, about arcane magic. And yet, this would be the point that, if you're going to sell your soul for something, you're the one who's going to be making the offer as well. It's not just someone taking your soul; you have to give it, right?
Good point.
So I kind of like that idea. Were you really? Is it really because of what you were given, or is it your character? I don't like answering the question, but I sure as hell love leading into the question and asking my characters: Are you chosen ones, or have you stumbled upon this by accident?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, along those lines, that's how I like to deal with these cultures. Were they inherently evil, or did they start making really bad decisions because they wanted more power?
Good points.
And then become evil.
Always thought-provoking, and that's part of there's no right or wrong way to run your Greyhawk, especially in the past.
Oh, and that's the point, is that all this is past. All this is stories that these characters in the present are telling each other about the past, right? How did we get here?
All right, and it's super cool, and I really appreciate everyone participating tonight. This is a great discussion. So you guys kind of all shouted out what you were doing. Gary, what's the Vision's date? Do we have a date coming up?
I'm going to be reliant on the layout, I think, as the last step. So I think the issue will be complete this week, but I can't.
Okay.
I can't speak to the layout portion of it, but.
Do you still need a little a box for me on the page?
Oh, a blurb for your
or just
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. I'll send
and the ad I was talking about. Yeah, we should definitely advertise all the other GREYHAWK projects.
Oh, okay. And I guess, Jay, before I'll throw out this out too. The 2 games that I submitted for Virtual GREYHAWK Con, which you so graciously accepted, my 2 games this year will be touching upon some of these ideas. Of course, we have a Spine Castle adventure, and we have another expedition to that strange stone structure from last year. So you're going to get some creepy ancient history / lore.
So we got Return to the Strange Stone Dwelling, 1:00 Saturday.
And then Friday night is
Friday night, Fist of the Usurper.
Yeah, Fist of the Usurper.
There you go. It always says it doesn't match because it goes to 11:45 instead of 12, so you're fine. It's just goofy thing with scheduling. Yeah, so we could use some more submissions here, everyone, and some more registrations. Please note the 2 main things I'm going to promote is this, and then no game tomorrow night. Tim's game, which I don't know what happened to the banner. I can't find it. I know I did it. Tim's game's 9 a.m., which is, oh my God, my brain just shut off. 9 a.m. Eastern time, Saturday morning. Underdogs. We got Mike Disney, KH Gamer, Naz, and Prometheus at least playing in that. But next week's huge. All right, I tell you. So I want to share something with the community, and I'm asking for all of you to burn a little electricity, if you understand what I'm saying here.
Uh-oh.
So this is from Twitch. There's on their Discord is a special thing that partners can submit to highlight an event now on the front page of Twitch. So this is for hello, Lord Gazuma. Congratulations, you've been selected for promotion, and that's starting Friday night, 7/12/2024. We hope you and your community have an amazing stream together. And it tells me, it wants me to advertise and do all that. So I'm going to be on the damn front page, which I've never been in 6 years on Twitch. The highlighted front page for this. So in that first mission is the death of Prince Trissarin. That's at 9:00 that Friday night. 2 hours earlier on 7.
He deserved it.
What's that?
He deserved it.
2 hours earlier at 7:00, Tommy Kelly is coming on. So we're going to be sitting down talking about some stuff beforehand. So we'll have Tommy on at 7:00.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We're just gonna sit there. Everything's gonna be out of my basement because I can't run up and down the steps now. I'll be all downstairs. I'm running. The computer's gonna be on live 24 hours. So I'm asking you, if you're not watching, have the machine on in lurk mode because I want to go for try and get some record numbers for this. It starts at 9 o'clock. The first game is 9 o'clock Friday night. Actually, the first game is Thursday night. Part 4 of Hints of the Past is Thursday night on my normal 7:30 time with my group and Courtney playing in that. And we're just gonna, because I can't change the terrain out between the two, so I had to. It's like, what am I gonna run Thursday? So Bill and I kind of figured out what we're doing. I got the first game has Ed Greenwood playing a freaking Bard, a first edition Bard. I can't even wait to see that.
Oh man,
Coco, I got Bird, I got Darling Creepshow, I got Bones, I got Myriad, and the ever mysterious Tim. I mean, what a group of vagabonds for that, right? And then we got a game Saturday morning at 9. But I got to get through. When that game gets on at 2 o'clock, I got to figure out what I'm doing for 6 hours. Right? In the middle of the night. So Curtis is coming on. And anyone who's on Cannon Fire, I may be reaching out to you because hopefully I have a late Cannon Fire talk on Fridays. I know there haven't been many lately, but I'm going to have you hop on the Zoom. We'll just BS on Zoom. As long as we don't go political, it'll be fine. So, all right, no politics.
Can we talk the politics of the Great Kingdom?
Yes, we can. We're no real life politics. So, yes, please. But politics of the Great Kingdom is fine. So, just to keep me going. Yes, Curtis. And that'll be Curtis isn't playing till 3 o'clock the next day. So I got the dwarf game. The 2 second games are out of my campaign. It's the destruction of Wolfmaster Keep, and then the third one is the defense of Hearthguard Tower. But Hearthguard Tower is on the low road map. So you've seen that it's on the map already. So that's an existing place, technically in Fannin already. So that one's going to be the third and final one, and that's the one that Curtis and Brett are in. Long day. And Tim, you got something to say politically? No, you're not saying any of your you're not saying any of your crazy shit politically, Tim. No, I'm just saying that with all love, because Tim's going to be with me the whole time too. Tim's over for 24 hours, so it's going to be nuts. You can sing. You want to sing that song over and over, Curtis? You can. You want to sing it? Please, sing John Candy all day long. So I'm babbling now because I'm exhausted. It was a long work week already, and I can't wait to have off tomorrow. So that is now. Let's end this. So this will run 24 hours, probably more than 24 hours, right? Okay, I'll be on live, no sleep, nothing, and then we'll have a normal gabbing next Sunday. I don't know what the topic is, but the Sunday after is Mike Schley to talk about the
Schley.
Schley? He told me it was Schley. It's Schley.
Oh, he said on the GREYHAWK.
It's Schley.
Yeah.
I just will call him Mike then.
Oh yeah, well yeah, whatever. Yeah, so don't worry. As long as we get him on and we can talk to him, it's awesome. So yeah.
Yeah. So and I know he's looking forward to it. I know he was on GREYHAWK, but this way you all get to ask questions now from the audience, right? And then he can admit live that he He honored Anna because
he have all the rights in the world to use mine. I've already given him permission. I'm gladly giving him again. So,
yes, but it is Anna's contours. Right?
To some degree, yes, and he admitted to some degree. Well, I don't need to ask him outright. I'm just so happy with what he created. So
yes, and
just say that. Yep.
And then I get to sleep after that, and then we'll worry about the stream schedule for Virtual GrowlCon. What I'm asking is, here's the link again. Start signing up and registering, please. Get the events in. GREYHAWK Reborn hasn't put their events into your stroller games yet. Put your events in early, please. That way we get more people interested. I'll keep on advertising as much as possible. The community is going to grow, though. Once this Dungeon Master's Guide comes out, the community is going to get a boost, an immediate boost. Thousands of people are going to get that book. And they're going to be looking for where I can find more content. Right? Okay.
We already seen the early beginnings of it.
We have. Absolutely. You should see all the bad YouTube vids out there on GREYHAWK already. For people who have no idea what the hell they're talking about.
Yep.
I don't count Joe Block in that at all.
No, he definitely knows.
But there's a lot of them that have no idea what they're talking about out there. Joe's doing great work, but I'm talking about the ones who are just putting out stuff. Oh, and they're like
ones that discovered GREYHAWK for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but we welcome them in. Yeah.
No, you don't want to see the bad one, Sparky. Why do you want to see the bad YouTube vids? Oh my gosh. I know, it's kind of like a train wreck. You gotta look, but you don't want to. So, Mysterious Tim. Question is, what prop should they bring? Don't bring anything that I could drop on my foot and lose toes, Tim. Don't bring no battle axes or anything like that. So, yeah. All right. Let's do the giveaway.
Can I just
Please.
post a link here?
Sure.
I posted some more heraldry today
do it.
on
Absolutely.
my blog
Excellent.
here. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And you're on Friday. You on Friday night?
Yeah, I'm on Friday, and there will be more posts coming this week. I'm working on a couple of other ones too. So it's to celebrate 700 patrons. So thank you so much.
That's
Yep.
awesome. See, and Anna, we know from a fact that's grown. That's grown like by 60.
That's grown like 20 or so the last couple of weeks. So,
yeah, but since the announcement came, it's been like 60.
Oh yeah, it has grown. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So
I'm so happy.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing here. So let me get to the giveaway here and see who wins tonight. Get your pick of a great classic D&D reprint. I'm hoping that Bob, you got yours just recently. Closing it out. Let's see who wins. We're gonna raid. Oh geez, Wednesday nights are bizarre. I have almost 20 streams in my listing that I'm gonna do 20 sides every story. We haven't done them in a while. Because he's part of the stream team, so that's what I'm going to do. And he's playing D&D. Winner is... So sit tight, please. My God, Caesar is on a roll. Holy jeez. Caesar! Holy moly.
Oh.
That's like 3 out of the last 6. So, yep. Grats, dude. I'll get with you like I always do. So, thank you all. And... hope everyone enjoyed it. It was really
thanks for tuning in, guys.
This is really deep. We went really deep here.
Thank you.
But the map is great. Gary, thanks for that.
Oh,
'cause
no
that helps. He moved to Dark Sun. That's funny. So we'll see you all Saturday mornings. The next time I'll be live, 9 a.m. The Underdogs or Rovers of the Barons or Arafi, whatever they're called now. With Tim, it's a fun game. I'll be producing it, so my voice will be in the background. So where's that map located? Please link it one more time as we go offline here, if you guys don't mind, in chat, so you can get it off Cannon Fire XT. But it's not up to date. Gary's going to update it for you. So,
Pardon.
No, that's okay. That's all right. That's nothing compared to what happens in my game on Thursday night, Les. You know that. You know. Yeah. All righty. It's on Cannon Fire site there. Main page. There you go. Thank you all. Great show. All right. We're going to read into 20 sides every story. Say hi to Alex for me. Alex is a good guy. Just got to get to the right place here. Give me a second. It's like they add too many more steps. Give me a sec here. I gotta type it in because it just doesn't show up like it used to, and start raid. Yay! There we go. Alright, it's finally starting. Hope you all have a nice holiday weekend, especially if you have off Friday and make it a 4-day weekend. Look at that, 79, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you soon. Alright, there we go. Make sure it went. It did.